Dazhong Chuangye, Wanzhong Chuangqin. These were the words made famous by Premier Li Keqiang 3 years ago at the Summer Davos. In English, it translates to mass entrepreneurship and innovation. And with this, Premier Li called upon each and every Chinese citizen to be more entrepreneurial and to innovate. But what is innovation? Innovation is nothing but having an idea and putting that idea into action. And the entrepreneurs are the ones who know this really well. They take action on their idea, they turn their dreams into reality and go off and change the world. But for those of you who are like me, working in a job, working for a boss, we hesitate to take our idea and bring it up to the management because we are afraid they'll be turned down. But I'm here to tell you it doesn't have to be that way. And that's because you too can change the world from where you are by becoming an intrapreneur. How many of you guys here have heard of this term before? Very few. Intrapreneur is nothing but an entrepreneur inside of a large organization. They act just like a startup founder would do and create cool new innovations. Some of the best innovations in history have been created by intrapreneurs. For example, Art Fry, he created Post-it notes at 3M by using a policy where every employee were given 15% of time to work on things they believed mattered. Jeff Raskins, he created Macintosh because he didn't believe in the direction Apple was headed in. And Ken Kutaragi risked losing his job to bring PlayStation to life. Did you guys hear of Art, Jeff, or Ken before today? How many of you had heard of these guys? I see like a couple of hands being raised. And I'm here to change that. You know, intrapreneurs are as responsible for changing the world as entrepreneurs do, but entrepreneurs get all the glory. So, 2 years ago, I embarked on a journey to create intrapreneurs at Intel, where I work, right here in China, by creating a program called Ideas to Reality, where we enable and empower our employees to bring their ideas to life. And while doing so, I realized how difficult it is to innovate in a corporate environment. You see, on one side, you have the creatives, and on the other side, you have the business people. And it is the job of the intrapreneur to go and take their ideas from one side to the other. It may seem daunting at first, but not if you break that down into small, simple steps. And I'm going to introduce you to what we believe are those 4 steps. You start with ideation, then go on to incubation, you validate the business, and finally pitch the idea to the right people. So let's dive right into ideation. When you are an entrepreneur, sky is the limit. But when you are working in a corporate environment, your idea needs to be relevant to the organization you're in. And it has to match with the long-term strategy and goals of your organization. Not only that, you need to realize that entrepreneurship, by its nature, is something that is unplanned. So when you ask for resources, those resources need to be reasonable. You can't go ask for millions of dollars for your moonshot. You need to be very reasonable. And the last but not the least is your idea need to time out in a timely manner. The corporate manager who's going to invest in your idea may not even be in that same position 3 years from today. So pick up the ideas that can materialize in a year or 2. And if you follow these 3 principles, you can come up with an idea which is fit for an entrepreneur. The next step is to turn that idea into something tangible, and that's what we call incubation. Right? So the reason you need to do that is when you show something to someone, they are much more likely to believe in it. Right? In the tech world, we have a term which is demo or die. So if you don't have a demo to go with your idea, what you're doing is just an empty talk. Now, Innovation is not about creating cool, shiny demos. It's about making money. And if you're not bringing in the money along with your innovation is just a novelty. So when you create those demos, you also need to make sure you have a good business case to go along with it. Because investors, especially the ones inside a large corporation, they don't really invest in people or ideas, they invest in business. And so you need to have a really good business case to go along with your innovation. And once you have that, the next step is to pitch the idea to the right people. And this is where a lot of experts, they believe that Chinese are not good at it. They are not good at selling ideas. But 2 years of running this innovation program, what I have realized is that this skill can be taught and it can be learned. For example, the guy here is Yu Chong. He's 3 years out of school. A weekend of a boot camp, he's able to go and pitch this idea in front of 3 general managers, 2 VPs, and a country president, and convince them to invest in his ideas. So if you follow these 4 simple steps of ideation, incubation, business validation, and pitching, you are on your way to be a good intrapreneur. So what does it look like? What does the journey of an intrapreneur look like? And to help you understand that, I'll go back 13 years when I was in the Silicon Valley. I was doing my PhD at Stanford University, and I took the summer off to go work at Apple. And we were working on this intrapreneurs project where we're developing a really cool touch technology, where you could touch and interact with maps using both your hands in a very natural way by gliding your fingers on smooth surface of glass. And this was at a time when state-of-the-art was poking at the plastic screen using a stylus. What I saw blew away my mind, and so I took the plunge, and I got onto this intrapreneur's journey. In 6 months, we were able to put a demo in front of Steve Jobs. When he looked at it, he didn't puke all over it, so that was a good sign. He said, "Can you turn this into something of a product?" So we went back to the drawing board. We came back with a tablet. He said, "It's too big. Can you make it smaller?" We went back to the lab. We came back with a smaller tablet. He said, "It looks too much like a PC. Can you make it look something different?" And this went on and on and on. And 2 years had passed. And we had a lab full of tablets. And at this time, a random software guy got his hands on the tablet, and he created a really cool effect called a rubber band effect. This is where you scroll all the way to the end of the screen, and you pull a little bit, and the screen bounces back. And they showed it to Steve. As Steve jumped out of his chair, he said, "I know what we can do with this. Stop working on the tablet. We are going to build the phone first." And so, a year later, iPhone was launched. So you may wonder what happened to the intrapreneur. Started exactly where we left off, went off and built the world's tiniest MP3 player. Then I moved to China a year later, and China has been my home ever since. Worked on a bunch of other things, and as the luck would have it, I was reunited with the tablet project. A year of working on this tablet, I was there to see the first iPads roll off the production line. So the life had come full circle. A year later, I quit and joined Intel, did a bunch of other things, and 2 years ago, I stopped building products and building people. So what did I learn from this journey? 3 things. The first is failure is nothing but a stepping stone towards the success. It's the thing that you learn from 9 failures that you take to the 10th attempt is what makes the 10th attempt a big success. All those times we had the failed demo with Steve, we learned something from it, and it helped us 6 years later when we're actually building the real iPad. The next is that you need to realize that innovation is a zigzag journey. You may start with one thing in mind and end up with something totally different. You can never predict the outcome of innovation. You just have to take a leap of faith and get on the journey. And last, and this is the most important, and this is for the guys in the places of power, culture is the most important thing. If you create a culture that encourages risk-taking, if you create an environment where people feel safe to make mistakes, they will deliver things like the iPad, like the PlayStation, like the Post-it notes. Now you may ask, what if I don't do this? One of the two things could happen. The first thing is you'll lose good people. And when you lose good people, you lose the ideas along with them, you lose business opportunities. The second thing that could happen is more drastic. And to tell you that, I'm going to tell you a small story. How many of us here like to take selfies? Really? Just a few? Okay. So what makes selfie possible is the digital camera we have in our phones, right? When I was growing up in the mid-90s, we did not have a digital camera. What we had were Kodak moments. A Kodak moment was captured on film and printed on paper, ready to be viewed a whole week later. And today we have selfies which we can immediately enjoy. But did you know that 20 years before this, a digital camera had already been invented? By none other than a guy at Kodak, a guy named Steven Sasson, and that's what the digital camera looked like when he created it. He brought it to the board, and the board laughed at him. They said, "We are in the business of chemicals and paper. What you have created is a digital toy." So Kodak sat on their invention until 2012, when they were bankrupt, disrupted by the very same technology they had created, the digital camera. And that came to be known as the new Kodak moment. And I can assure you that this is not going to be the last Kodak moment, because a study put out by the University of Washington, it estimates that 40% of all Fortune 500 companies that exist today will be gone in 10 years. Not just dropping off the list, but completely gone, dead. Right? And I don't believe this is an exaggeration. Today, the companies are not only competing with other big companies or corporations, they are also competing with the startups. And startups are so much more nimble than a corporate. So, if the corporate has to have any chance of keeping up with the pace of innovation that's happening outside, which is mostly driven by the entrepreneurs, they need to have a healthy number of intrapreneurs inside. And that leads me to believe that intrapreneurship is the future of work. The question is this: whether your company will exist before you realize that. So, to conclude my talk, I'd like to say to the employers in the audience, embrace intrapreneurship before it's too late. And to the employees in the audience, you don't have to quit your job in order to change the world. You can do it from right where you are. Thank you.